this is underwater rugby. It's basically rugby. With fins instead of shoes.
Of all that sinks, not float.
With baskets instead of roll line. Oh yeah, by the way, we do all of that while holding our breath.
People used to see a lot of mantas around. Recently, we haven't really been seeing them much. There could be many reasons why. It could be bycatch or pressure from fisheries, or it might even be the interaction that we have with the manta rays. But a lot of people still don't know is that their pictures and their video could help the research a lot as well. The spot patterns on the belly of the mantas would be similar to our fingerprints. So this way we can identify them. We can recognize them and then we keep it as a database. There's still a lot to learn and find out why they're not really in the area anymore. It's the only thing that I could do to help protect these species that I love so much.
time I've come back.
Okay. It must be a real big change. Well, but let's talk about your, diving profession and underwater photography, because that's something that's close to your heart. How long have you? How many years? When did you first start diving?
My first dive was in 1948.
Right.
And I live in Santa Barbara, California. I was raised there. And so most of my diving was in that particular area in the 40s and 50s and 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one of those photographers that came from a photographic family.
Okay.
My grandmother was a portrait photographer. My uncle was a landscape photographer. And my father was a flower photographer in South America.
Right.
So what's left is the ocean.
That's right.
And I chose black and white, and I'm glad that I stayed with that.
Why did you choose black and white?
It's timeless. It's just a timeless venue. And today it's very, very popular. And a lot of collectors and a lot of museums and galleries are displaying my work, and it's a real treasure, because the ocean is what's the most important part.
But when you've been under the ocean, there's so many colors. And sometimes some would say, with a black and white picture, you may not capture that variety or the spectrum of colors that you see from the coral life and marine life.
I don't see the ocean that way. I don't photograph things that are really colorful, if you'll notice on my work. Most of the things that I photograph are in shades of gray. And if you look at the California sea lions,
right.
They're gray. And the ocean basically is a light blue, which turns gray and black and white.
Okay, so when talking about the sea lions, again, when you go photograph an image like that, what are you hoping to capture? What do you want people to see from the image?
I preconceive the image, much like Ansel Adams. And I spend 2 to 3 hours on the seabed in one place without even moving, waiting for the right light to happen or the right subject.
And that's tough, because you also...
I'm not a normal diver. I don't swim a lot.
You go in the water and you sit in the spot and wait. And you only take, from what we discovered, generally take about 12 shots or less per dive.
So my camera holds only 12 images. And the first exposure, I click that off to make sure everything's working. And you always save one for the last,
right,
in case the ultimate comes your way. And it's been my life, and it's proven to work.
I guess because of this day and age with digital technology, we're a bit in a spot we kind of snap first and choose later. What do you think about that?
Well, it's good. It really is, because the whole world can enjoy the visual arts with the digital technology. And that's a wonderful thing.
Well, we want to show an image of a certain sea lion that we're just going to put up on the screen right now. Maybe you can tell us a bit about that.
Her name is Spot. I met Spot many, many years ago off Anacapa Island, the Channel Islands off Santa Barbara, California. And Spot not only stole my snorkel when I photographed her, I was just snorkel diving. She came up and stole my snorkel, and later on to my life, she stole my heart too.
Okay.
And every time I go back, she has little ones, and the little ones come up to me and embrace me, and it's a beautiful, beautiful feeling.
How many years have you spent developing this relationship?
12 years. Lady here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I guess you had no intention of that when you first went there. It was just someone to photograph.
Well, the light was coming down to the kelp, and it was just striking her face like my grandmother's portraiture.
Right.
And that was one of the first exposures I made. And as you shoot through my work, as the years went on by, she became more friendly to me. She would actually turn upside down and look into the dome of my camera.
Right.
And see her reflection. And she's stolen my fins before, and my snorkel, and she bites on my buckles and all kinds of it. But she's a dear, 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 dear friend.
But that relationship, again, most of the time they move away, so it takes time, and
you'll see that with most oceanographers today, and marine science people and photographers. There is a relationship with our marine mammals, and they've lived there longer than we have on this planet.
Right.
And as long as we don't force the issue, as long as we aren't forceful to them, they'll come to you,
right,
and that's what you need to do.
What is the biggest threat you think that's facing the oceans today?
People, pollution, runoff, waste, plastics. We seem to dump everything in our rivers, our waterfalls, our lakes, our oceans. And part of the reason I'm here with the ADEX ADEX is to talk to the audience about that, because the divers see it every time they go diving, and then that's how to communicate to the public. And your sponsorship here really helps too.
Right. I guess it's true. I mean, when you don't see it, you don't spend time in the water, you just forget, out of sight, out of mind, as they say, right? For the divers who are in the water.
It's very true.
But this is about almost changing habits and changing lifestyles, which is pretty much a tall order.
Well, and this ocean planet, this blue environment that we have is so precious, and everything that's within it. And every country today is attempting to set up reserves and preserves, and get away from overfishing, and really protect what's there for tomorrow, for my grandchildren, my great grandkids, and the ones that are going to follow in your audience.
Right.
But that's the future.
What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
I think I've done that. My work's in a lot of museums today in the world, and timeless photographs that you can't put a date on, that have a statement that how precious this environment is. And that's the legacy that I'd like to leave.
And has this carried on to your family? I mean, the next future generations who are continuing
the hardest part about our world today, this 2013, my great-grandchildren are okay. They're kind of behind me. But my children went into other fields,
right?
Real estate and landscape design and what have you. And the grandchildren, they went into teaching and things like this. So it's the great-grandchildren that are 6, 7, and 8 years old today that are kind of behind me, which is good. And I'm dragging them along. So we skipped a generation.
Well, at least you didn't miss it altogether. So I mean, I'm sure they'll carry on the tradition as well. And just very quickly, we'll talk about this book. You were mentioning that there is a museum coming up as well that is going to showcase some of your work.
Oh yes. I have an exhibit with Ansel Adams. It begins the 20th of May this year. It's in Newport News. It's in Virginia, one of the largest museums in the United States. And it's a collector's museum. Right. So it has about 70 of my images, very, very large. Mm-hmm. And they're there for the general public to really enjoy.
Okay, you got a favorite image till today?
Oh, sure, Spot. Yeah, it has to be. When something's that close to you, and people who photograph, whether it's birds or dogs or cats or whatever, or their children, there's just something about that eye contact that works.
Well, Andy, thanks so much for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you very much.
Award-winning photographer, any books there on his passion for photography and the marine conservation work that he has been dedicated to. And he's also the guest of honor at this year's Asia Dive Expo. It's happening in Singapore this weekend. He'll be speaking at one of the sessions. If you'd like to find out more about it, do take a look at the website. We've got it on screen right now. All the details are there. On the note, we're done. We're going to wrap it up for today. It is Thursday, 18th of April, but we're back tomorrow. Bright and early is a Friday after all, so do join us then. Have yourself a good day. Bye-bye.
My name is Valerie Taylor, and I've been a diver for the bulk of my life, over 60 years. I started off spearing fish, and I was very good at it. Then one day my husband and I, we both won the Australian title, me the women's, he's the men's, and he walked out of the water and we looked at all those dead fish, and we knew we'd been out at a beautiful reef, covered in marine life, and we'd taken out all the big fish. And Ron said, "I'm never going to do this again." And I said, "I'm not either." And we walked away and became marine conservationists. And we were very successful at it, more successful than anybody else in Australia or any other group, mainly because my husband was a cinema photographer, underwater cinema photographer. And we were both good divers. I was young, I looked good in the bikini in those days, and we would get the story, a good story, we'd film it, and you could go on television and speak to the people of Australia. And that's how I got the potato cod protected, the sea lion protected, the grey nurse shark protected, the great white shark protected. Many, many marine reserves made, all through getting a good story and going on television with good imagery and speaking to the people of the country. And if there's one thing politics don't like, they don't like bad publicity. They don't like to look bad. And the last thing I did in the field of conservation in Australia was slightly mad. I had a big sign, and I sat on the steps of Parliament House in South Australia. I just sat there, dressed very well, wearing my best pearls, and I had a sign that said, "Don't let the government take away your marine national parks," because the fishing lobby was pushing to be allowed to fish in the marine parks. What's the use of having a marine national park if the fishermen can fish in it? They forget it. And I just sat there. And eventually reporters came and the press came, and I'm all by myself. People came. I got on television, and I did one other thing. I paid my own way down there. I paid for everything myself, because I knew that someone would say, "What? Would South Australia pay for Valerie Taylor to come down here and sit on the steps of Parliament House?" They didn't. I did that. And I saved all the marine parks, every one. I went home, and I got a phone call that night from a politician, and he said, "I want you to explain why you did this." So I explained to him very carefully how South Australia has the very best diving in the world, which it does have. I noticed today and yesterday at ADEX, which was extremely well run and very, very well presented, that South Australia, except for the white sharks, didn't come into it. And I was horrified, because their jetties, the life around their jetties, beats any coral reef I've ever seen. They have those wonderful sea lions, great white sharks, all sorts of interesting marine life, dolphins that will swim with you, and nobody knows. It's a big secret. And I went to the South Australian stand at ADEX, and it was nowhere near as good as some of the others. And the only thing about the marine world that they were presenting were the sharks. And I thought, that's sad, because the marine world offers so much. It's disappearing at a rapid rate, the diversity and the richness, and it has to be stopped. And I was very, very impressed with some of the lectures that I listened to at ADEX over the weekend. People speaking about just this. And what was even most impressive, that most of them, or many of them, are Asians. And our biggest problem at the moment, in Australia anyway, are Asian vessels, mostly Taiwanese or Indonesian, coming into our waters and dropping bombs, cyanide fishing. It's a big country, and we don't have enough vessels to patrol all our coastline. It's sad, because they have fished out their own areas, and that's truly sad. And they know it. It's no good saying to me they don't know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. And it's going to take a huge effort to stop them or slow them down. Personally, I think the only thing that can be done is for huge areas, square miles of reef and ocean and shoreline made totally protected. Only people who want to enjoy the area. I say, go and visit a marine national park. It's there for you to enjoy, not there for people to go and kill and destroy. And that's very important. If we don't do it, we're not going to save the oceans and the life in it. I'm very old. I'm 80 this year. And the sad, sad thing is that no young people today, anywhere in the world, will ever know how wonderful the oceans used to be. They'll only know how man has made it. And to me, that's a tragedy. You know, I've got arthritis, I'm old, I struggle around, but I've had the best life of anybody I know ever. I've had the most incredible life, and I've seen the marine world as it should be. I've seen it as it was, and I hate seeing it now as it is. It's a tragedy, and once people like myself and other old-time divers are gone, there'll be nobody left to tell the true story. And that's what's going to happen. There is hope, but it's going to be hard fought for. And that's all I can say. And thank you very much for having me here. I enjoyed it very much. And maybe I'll live long enough to come again.
안녕하세요, 어머니. 제주에서 해녀로 계시죠?
예예.
네, 해녀 하신 지 얼마나 되셨어요?
해녀 학원 지가 한 60년?
60년. 그러면 지금 실례지만 나이가
76세.
76세. 근데 지금도 바다에 나가시는 거예요? 대단하세요. 아, 그럼 어머니 계속 제주도에서 해녀 일을 시작하신 지는 얼마나 되셨어요?
제가 국민학교 졸업하니까 나가 9살에 국민학교 들어갔거든.
네.
이제 15살에 졸업하니까 졸업하는 당시에 그때는 지금과는 틀렸지.
네.
그때는 뭐 이렇게 그 뭐 물건 잡아서 뭐 어디 수협에 가나 그런 것도 없고 그냥 해다가 반찬 그렇게 해가다가 한 18세부터 육지 그때는 육지들 많이 실패했거든. 우리 집에 육지 그 당시에는 육지 달래군포
네.
그거 5월달 딱 5월달에 시작해 그러면 4월달 나면 거기 가서 음력으로 8월 맹길 먹정하면 들어오지. 육지 한 3년 3년 갔다 와서 또 여기서 그렇게 돼가니까 여기서 물건들을 좀 그 당시에 조금 수협이 생겨서 조금 출납이 됐어. 그러나 그 당시에는 우리가 그 연세세는 미역.
바다에서 미역을
미역이 제일 최고 돈 액수가 많이 올라갔어.
비싸요.
매역 헌칭했다, 투칭했다 이렇게 하면서 그 매역으로 돈 사다가 그것이 조금 해가니까 이제 이 바다 수입이 생겨가니까 각 어청개별로 이 수입을 해가니까. 근데 처음 할 때는 우리가 잡으면 우리가 치고 서귀포 시장에 가서 팔고 그렇게 했어.
그렇게 돈도 모으시고
그렇게 돈 모이니까
자식들도 키우고
자식들로 공부도 시키고 그 당시에는 지금까지 이제는 뭐 곰밥도 맞았다고 하지만은 곰밥 먹기가 힘들었어. 우리는 감전은 저 보리밥.
보리밥 그렇게 파셔서 보리밥 사다가 아이들 주시고 그렇게 하셨군요.
옛날에는 보리장은 여름나면 보리장 해 그래 그거 장국 해 그래 딱딱 줘마 그네 헌사발 먹어 그래 또 물에 그 당시에는 물에 이제는 한 번 들지만 그 당시에는 허러 오면 물 2번 3번 들어갔거든 바다에.
하루에 2-3번씩 들어가세요?
우리 저 한청물질 할 때는. 지금은 이 옷 생기고 우리가 이 옷 생기가 니가 지금 한 30년쯤 되실 거라. 그 전에는 지금 저기 걸어지고 그 옷을 입고 하니까 겨울엔 또 오래 살도 못해 추워. 오래 살면 1시간 경한 한 40분.
해녀 전통 한복 같이 생긴
그거 입고 우리 계속 했죠. 여기다가 이 옷 나니까 지금은 뭐 보통 그냥 한 5시간.
5시간이요? 하루에? 요즘요? 그럼 예전에는 더 많이 하셨어요?
이 스포츠 옷을 입으니까 너무 오래 살면 몸이 좀.
그럼 예전에는 짧게 여러 번 들어가시고 요즘엔 이 슈트가 생겨서 한 번 들어가시면
이 스포츠 옷 입은 후에는 한 번.
한 번 하는데 그 대신 5시간 동안
딱
계속
5시간. 보통 5시간.
하루에 5시간 동안 계속 참액질을 하시는 거예요.
그렇지.
어머니 한 번 물에 들어가시면 몇 분 정도 숨 참으세요?
젊을 때는 뭐 그때는 나도 보판 이거라서.
네.
보판 이거라는데
네.
그때는 한 2분
2분 넘게
정도 살았으니까 지금은 한 1분 정도.
1분 정도.
이제 나이 들어가니까 모든 게 다 그에 따라가는 것 같아.
그러시구나. 지금 지금 어머니 건강하시죠?
그럼 해녀니까 건강하지.
아, 그래요?
매일 이 바닥 운동이 제일 건강.
아, 그래요? 건강을 유지하시는.
온 12배가 다 운동하니까.
온몸이 운동을 하시니까 어머니 멋있어요. 건강하시고. 지금 그러면 자녀분들도 다 제주에서 공부하시고.
다 제주에서
어머님한테.
결혼시키고 다 자기만 집다가 살고.
와, 대단하시네요, 어머니. 존경스럽습니다. 멋있어요. 이거는 지금 어머님 일하실 때 쓰시는 태왁이에요.
이것이 제일 귀한 물품.
해녀한테.
우리가 물건 하나 잡았던 두 개 잡았던 여기 놔가지고 또 이 안경 이것도 제일 중요한 거.
큰 눈.
예,
네.
이거 없으면은 뭐 여기 아무만 있어도 안 보여.
네.
이거 쓰니까 보이는 거고 이걸로 보이는 거 잡아다가 이 망어리에
넣어서.
잡아서 시간 돼서 다 되면 이거 이래 밀고 와서 이거 메고 가 일로 퍼보내 퍼.
제일 중요한 거네요.
제일 중요한 거. 이거 목숨.
목숨. 알겠어요.
저 먼 바다에 갈 때는 이거 없으면 진짜 사람 목숨이 갔다니 가지.
그럼 어머니 중간에 쉬실 때는 어떻게 추운데 불도 쬐시고 뭐 어떻게 하세요?
이 지금은 옛날에는 그 두 번 세 번 칠 때는 물에 들어갔다가 나 그 불 쳐서 또 조금 따시면 들어가시면 지금은
그냥 한번.
이 옷 입은 한 후에는 와서 이 잡은 물건 저기다 저 그날 가져갈 때는 그날
네.
수업에서 팔고
네.
그렇지 않으면 저기 보관했다가 또 며칠 날 판매한다 하면 그날 와서 오늘 같이
바다에 보관을 해요?
저 보관을 하거든.
바다에다가.
하루 뭐 이틀이고 한 거 보관했다가 또 한 번에 또 수협에서 며칠 날 몇 시에 물건을 가져간다 하면 저거 와서 건지는 거.
그렇구나. 이렇게 앞바다에다가 보관을 하시는군요.
그러니까 보관하는데도 물이 수심이 앞이면 이 소라도 생명이 이득해. 그러니까 조금 좀 수심 깊은데.
좀 깊은 데다가
이
숨겨놓는.
위에는 물이 막 차가워.
그렇구나. 알겠습니다, 어머니. 그러면 저희 어머님하고 같이 촬영을 하고 이렇게 제주에 대해서 해녀에 대해서 알리면서 저희 싱가포르 아덱스에서 어머님과 함께 다시 한번 여러분들한테 해녀에 대해서 얘기해 주실 수 있으세요?
해녀 대회 얘기할 거 삼성 해녀 보통 제주도 해녀여행 한 사람들은
네.
나도 마찬가지지만 상당히 강해.
네, 맞아요.
이 해녀 분 중에서 좀 약한 몸은 가진 사람은 해녀를 할 수가 없어.
없죠.
왜냐하면 이 바다에 가면은 육상과 바다가 틀리거든.
네.
틀리기 때문에 물건 잡고 못 잡는 건 그건 자기 자신이고
네.
마음을 크게 나도 할 수 있다 하는 그런 의지를 가져야 하지. 그렇지 않으면 못해.
맞아요. 와. 또 이렇게 무서울 텐데 어둡고 그죠?
지금은 여기 다 저 뭐 하고 하니까 여기 특히나 이 부판이 이 바다는 바다가 좋아.
네.
바다가 좋고 이 청정바다인데 좋기 때문에 그러니까 이 자매도 상군 중군 하중 있거든.
네.
제일 잘하는 사람은 상군 중군 제일 잘하는 사람은 제일 아래. 중군은 중간에.
네.
못하는 사람은 이 덕에 여기 과시.
여기 얕은데.
다 자기 기술에 그건 자기 기술은 속을 수가 없어. 바다 천고비면 요 사람은 상군 중군 하중 우리끼리 다 판단하거든.
그렇게. 근데 이제 좀 잘하면 또 멀리 나가고.
기술이 있는 사람은 저 멀리 가서 좀 많이 잡고.
그럼 더 큰 거 잡아서.
또 중간 사람은 중간에서 들으면 또 자기 기술만큼 잡고 또 이 가에 든 사람은 또 가에 든 사람만큼 기술. 그러니까 육상에 하는 일은 아무리 일을 잘 한다 해도 사람 두 사람 일 하는 사람이 없어. 암만 잘난다고. 나 우리도 육상을 또 하는데.
네.
그렇지만은 바다에는 이 상중 하에
네.
10배가 돼요. 10배가 된다고. 돈으로 따지면.
와, 그렇게 많이 차이나요? 네.
이 덕에 한 사람과 저 아래 상강 하가 사이가 돈 액수가 그렇게 많네. 예를 들어 상군이 100만 원을 벌었다면 헐빨인 10,000원.
너무 많이 차이 나네요.
똑같은 해녀지만은
네.
다 그냥 기술만 써 상당히 그 체력이 틀려.
그래서 해녀는 제주의 해녀는 그 강인함의 상징인 것 같아요.
제주 해녀치고 약한 사람은 없어.
그럼요. 어머니 그러면 저희 4월에 싱가포르 아덱스에서 또 만나 뵐게요.
그렇지.
감사합니다.
감사합니다.
자, 싱가포르 아덱스에서 해녀와 함께 만나요.
아이고 잘 갔어요. 다시랑 또 만나게 없어. 빠이빠이.
I'm Sylvia Earle, founder of Mission Blue, explorer in residence at the National Geographic, and a great champion for ADEX. And I so admire the theme for this year, a plastic-free ocean and the ocean citizen movement. Why not? This is the time as never before, and maybe as never again, to really get traction, to change this period that all of us have witnessed of decline of the place we love the most, the ocean, where in my lifetime, the accumulation of what we put into the ocean is clogging the sea. And what we're taking out of the ocean is diminishing the vibrant health of the ocean. But now we are armed with something that wasn't possible when I began diving back in the 1950s. We're armed with knowledge that not only what the problems are, but also that we have solutions. And if you look in the mirror, that's where we can start, where you can start with finding solutions. Knowing how much there is to know is one good starting place. And the role of divers as explorers, as champions for taking the initiative to see what others who don't get under the water the way you do, they can't see. The ocean from the surface looks pretty much today the way it did 50 or 100 or 1,000 years ago. But you know the truth. The fish are disappearing. The reefs are dying. The plastic continues to flow into the sea along with other forms of pollution. But you can't solve a problem if you don't know that you've got one. We have more than one. We have lots of problems. But looking around, those who come to ADEX, there are solutions in every person there, using your power, ability to see, to document, to communicate, to look to what others are doing. The scientists, get behind them, to provide the evidence. There's so many of you who are really good with cameras, who are really good with tracking evidence. And you're also good at embracing the ocean with care. Mission Blue has developed a program of hope spots to get people like you, especially the diving community, because you know and see what most other people don't see. And you care in ways that most people don't care because they don't know. There are more than 100 places, including very special places throughout the Pacific, already designated as hope spots. You can check them out, get behind them, or figure out a place that you might wish to designate and champion yourself. This is a time for hope. We can easily just give up and say, oh, they're too big, problems are too big for me or for even all of us together at ADEX to make a difference. But think about it. If you want to have a plastic-free ocean, it starts with you, with individuals taking action. If you want to have the citizen movement for the ocean, that means, again, it's you and the people you contact. I have never been more optimistic. Even with all the bad news that is out there, with 90% of the big fish and a lot of the little ones too already gone, with half of the coral reefs gone, well, half of them are still in good shape, still have 10% of the sharks. It's not too late, especially when there are powerful organizations like ADEX and all of the organizations that are gathered together, the individuals who care, and now armed with knowledge to know what to do, to use your power, to take action, to see at this point we can turn from this time of decline and not only be witnesses, but we can be the power, you can be the power behind turning things in a positive way. We need more fish. We need more squid. We need more shrimp. We need more life in the ocean. We need the coral reefs to recover. We need to fully protect sharks wherever they swim. We need to stop putting plastic in the ocean. We need you. And I thank you for doing your part. And I wish I could be there personally, and I'll be back to ADEX, because this is a place where things really happen and really get done. So thank you, all of you, for being a force for good.
Good morning. Now, the biggest and longest running dive event in Asia, the Asia Dive Expo, returns to Singapore this weekend. And its message for 2015 is marine conservation.
An important message indeed. Studies show there are now hundreds of ocean dead zones. And these are areas where sea life cannot survive.
Increased pollution means that the number of such dead zones are on the rise. And who's mostly responsible? Well, it's us, humans. 80% of marine pollution stems from our activities on land, especially plastic waste.
Further threatening sea life is climate change, overfishing, and the illegal practice of blast fishing. But two women are determined to reverse the ocean's decline. Valerie Taylor, a legend in the world of scuba diving since the 1960s. She's among the pioneers of capturing the underwater world on camera, including those heart-stopping shark scenes in Steven Spielberg's blockbuster Jaws.
And also Hong Kong celebrity Sharon Kwok, who's an active conservationist and an avid diver as well. And they're both here in studio to chat with us about diving and marine conservation. Valerie and Sharon, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Well, I'm lucky to be here because I was brought here to be part of this festival, and I hope a lot of people come along.
Amazing. You are turning 80 this year. Do you still dive regularly?
I was diving last week in Fiji with bull sharks, filming them. So I dive regularly.
So you're a bit of an adrenaline junkie.
Well, in the beginning, we were interested in sharks because I was a spearo, and the sharks always came to try and take your fish. And my husband and I realized very early in the piece that they weren't interested in us, they were interested in the fish alone. Most shark attacks are a mistake. They don't have hands, they can't feel, so they feel with their teeth. And they're so well armed, a small feel from a great white will kill you, most likely.
Well, Sharon, let's talk about your role in this. Now, you, of course, are a big celebrity here in Asia and Hong Kong. How did you get involved in being an advocate for the marine life?
I started at a very young age. My father is one of the founding members of a park in Hong Kong, a marine park. And so, I grew up being able to associate myself with cetaceans and other marine life. But, this time I'm here as the ocean ambassador for Asia Dive Expo. And I think my job this time is to try to bring people closer to the oceans. Now, you just mentioned how diving is misconceived as an activity by adrenaline junkies. Well, some, yes, but I don't think that's usually the case. Because for most people, I honestly think that diving is a very, very peaceful thing. You go into the water, sure, you don't really belong there, but once you have your gear strapped on, it's like you're flying. And the scenery is unbeatable. So it's the most peaceful, beautiful thing that you could ever experience.
Well, Valerie, tell us about one of your favorite spots for diving.
Wow, there's a lot of them. My favourite area for diving is Komodo Marine Park in Indonesia. My favourite, most exciting place to dive is Fakarava Lagoon in the Tuamotus in French Polynesia, because they have what we call wallpaper sharks. You can't see through them.
Wow.
And they swim through the South Pass to go into the lagoon to feed. And if you swim through with them, you're just another marine animal going into the lagoon to feed. And it's very exciting.
Do you find that that's what happens often when you dive underwater, that they actually regard you as another marine animal?
Yes, that's true. It depends on your behaviour. The American Navy has done a lot of studies with sharks because they've lost so many of their own in shipwrecks usually. And they pick up your heartbeat. And they know the difference between the heartbeat of a frightened animal, which is prey, and a non-frightened animal, which is an equal. And I'm very fortunate I don't get frightened, so my heartbeat's always nice and still.
Well, we hear you had a run-in with a spotted eel that surprised you.
Oh, no, not really, didn't surprise me. It surprised me when it became my friend.
Yeah.
It really became a huge friend. And her name was Honey, and she lived at Banda Island in the Banda Sea. And she really got to know me very well. And I loved
this video
her.
went
I loved
viral.
her.
I feel like I've seen this video as well. We were looking at the video of the eel.
Oh, Honey?
And Sharon, are you friends with any underwater animals as well?
Well, not on a long-term basis, but I think for me that really is one of the main reasons why I dive. On land, I love interaction with animals. I don't only advocate for oceans. I've been fighting the ivory trade, for example. So I've always had an affinity for all living animals, living beings. But when I'm underwater, I've had instances of, for example, last time I went diving, it was a couple of months ago in Thailand. But there was a little wrasse, it's just a small little wrasse, decided to be my friend. And it followed me throughout the whole tank of diving. It just followed me. And I had my camera with me, so this little wrasse at one point swam in front of me, and he just decided to look into my mask, came really close. You know, we were like cross-eyed, looking at each other. And it was just very curious. And I had my camera, so I did a selfie. I took a selfie with this wrasse. But it's being able to interact with these animals and fully understanding they're not just fish. Each one is an individual. Each one's an individual being, and they have characters, and we need to appreciate that.
Well, you mentioned earlier that your dad helped found Ocean Park. Has that changed how you feel about animals in captivity?
Oh, it's changed a lot. Now, when I was little, we didn't know a lot of what we know today, all right? And things were very different way back then. We didn't have dead zones. We didn't have the current level of pollutions. We didn't have to worry so much about what we're doing to the oceans. But now, you know, we're overfishing. There's all these other issues. And of course, we didn't know as much about cetaceans in those days. And now we know that dolphins and whales do not belong in captivity. It's something we need to stop doing. And we're having a hard time changing that overnight. I think Switzerland's done a very good thing. They have, I think, about 3 or 4 dolphins left in captivity, but they're phasing out. They're not letting them breed anymore. They're just letting them live out their lives, and that's it. They're not bringing any more in. However, there are a lot of aquatic parks sprouting up throughout China right now, and each one wants to showcase their own beluga whales and dolphins and whatnot, you know, killer whales. And when you get to killer whales, it gets dangerous too. So it's bad for the animal as well as the people involved.
So there are a lot of challenges to conservation. Valerie, over the years, what would you say is the secret to making conservation work?
I'm glad you asked me that. I have had many different marine animals protected in Australia, totally protected. And I've always done it in the same way. I don't belong to anything except maybe the World Wildlife fun because they knighted me, or had me knighted. But my husband was a cinema photographer underwater. This is what you do. You get a good story about an animal that's in distress, and that's very easy. You video it, like I'm down there patting the giant cod, you know, almost kissing it. I've got a story for TV. You go on TV, you talk to the people of the country. Wouldn't you like your children, when they are old enough to be able to do this with this fish? It can give people years and years of pleasure, and it can give a fisherman maybe 1 hour of pleasure at the most.
Okay, sorry, we have to interrupt you. We're almost out of time. But
oh, really?
Yeah, see how fast it went. But thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. And of course, you guys can talk to them at the Asia Dive Expo, which is going on the 10th of April, and you can check it out with them.
That's right. It's at the Suntec Convention and Exhibition Center. On that note, we're done for today. This Thursday, we'll see you again tomorrow on Friday, bright and early. Bye.
I think it's been valuable and important to be here because there's so many different aspects to this trip. We have a conservation aspect, we have a tourism aspect. We also have different interests on the boat, from whales to dolphins to the coral reefs to the free divers and getting the free divers in the water with the deep divers. So many different activities that make it a very special trip. So from my point of view, the Banda Sea is important because it is a very interesting place for cetaceans. It's deep, it's confined, it's the end point for the blue whale migration, which come down from the Southern Ocean. And if you think about the species list, what we've seen in this trip, we've seen 10 species, and not just sort of, you know, the little dolphins, we've seen them as well. But we've seen blue whales, sperm whales, beaked whales, orcas. So those are all the priority species that are out here. And to do all that in 10 days while we're moving along an area doing a variety of other activities as well, it's really very diverse. So that's quite special.
I would say the two key words that I'm going to take out of this would be exploration and knowledge. I mean, these two words kind of go hand in hand, right? Because knowledge is the main key drive to why we explore. And what makes this trip so extraordinarily different and special is the fact that, you know, we have a whale expert on the boat. And it's just a valuable lesson to be able to witness something and have somebody there giving you, you know, minute-to-minute commentary on exactly what you're witnessing, which is amazing because, I mean, we've seen whales all the time, we've seen dolphins, but to understand the behavior and have somebody explain to you on the spot, it's just it's like a live documentary, if you will, and you're living it. So I think what I'll get out of it is really the knowledge and this whole sense of exploration, because we really don't know what we're going to see.
When I sing the description of this trip, and I know that we might have a great chance to see sightseeing different whales, especially blue whales, and some whales that I never know before, then I encountered this time, and also like hammerheads, sharks. That will be a great chance, and it's amazing, and as I've never encountered properly before in the sea. So when I see this, I think it's a good chance that I should join this time. Actually, I have to mention it's my very first time to do the Liverpool trip, and I feel so lucky that the first time it's already quite high level. Yes. It is extra honor to be the freediving ambassador of ADEX, and actually it offers me a great opportunity to spread this fascinating sport to the people. Maybe they only think this sport is only for those superheroes for going very deep and long distance, but actually everyone, normal people, would have a chance to do freediving, especially like when they're doing holidays and and just fun diving the sea, that's already free diving.
I have seen something I haven't seen before, which is we were following the dolphins and the whales. We have learned a lot of things in terms of the guests here. We shared a lot of things, experience, and we had very valuable times.
This ADEX Underwater 360 expedition to the Banda Sea physically and financially supports the research of renowned IUCN cetacean expert Benjamin Kahn. In addition, we've recorded new populations of schooling hammerheads and exploratory dive sites, and we visited remote fishing villages to hear more about their reliance on coral reefs and their powerlessness to prevent dynamite fishing and the finning of hammerheads and other sharks by fishers from other areas. This expedition has helped these remote local communities by acting as an on-water deterrent to shark finners and dynamite fishers, by paying dive user fees, and by providing supplies in the form of water, diesel, food, and school and first aid equipment to local communities in very remote locations.
I believe this trip, first of all, has been a great success. I'm very happy that we could pull this off and work together with the Underwater 360 on this. And we've been planning this for several months, and how the outcome turned out is just fantastic. So I'm super happy about it. I believe it's important that we have done this to put the Banda Sea on the map. I've been crossing the Banda Sea the first time almost 5 years ago, and normally liveaboards just cross the area on the relocation from Raja Ampat to Komodo. So we only always get a glimpse of the Banda Sea. But I believe that this region is so rich in marine diversity and great marine life. And so I believe it's great that we could do a dedicated trip there, especially together with Benjamin Kahn, to also look at cetacean, not only the coral reefs. So I think this was very great that we could do this together. Thanks to Underwater 360, we had some of the ADEX ambassadors on board, which were adding, particularly for also our paying guests, for our customers, they were adding so much value to them, teaching them in free diving, teaching them about photography, doing presentations about sustainable tourism. So this was just to have this pool of people there together on the ship was just very special and an amazing outcome.
We have a very nice trip. I hope that this can help in the conservation of this area and bring more people to this area to discover these beautiful things that we see during this trip. Okay?
Here we have a collaboration between ADEX and Underwater 360, the beautiful Salmon Buyer liveaboard, and Benjamin Kahn from Apex Environmental, who is one of the world's most eminent cetacean experts. He's able on this trip to gather data that's going to go a long way towards better understanding and better protecting the Banda Sea. And at the same time, we have paying guests on board who've decided to come and join all of these industry personalities and experts. They themselves are getting a hugely enriched experience that goes way beyond what you would have on a normal liveaboard trip. So it seems like this could be a wonderful way to start developing a sector of the dive industry that